Okay, yeah, here it is. All right, I figured I might watch this. This came across my timeline. I think it's because of like all the talk of Destiny getting shut down. I came across this and another video by Nelvox that looks interesting. That talks about Killing Floor 3. We'll watch that one another time. But this one, in like 5 months, I think, 5 or 6 months, New World gets shut down. And I wanted to see why New World is in the state it is. I don't know the full story of it, but man, I love New World. That game is fun. I know you can't buy it anymore. Like they took it off of the Steam store to buy, and I know Gar and Willie. I think Peggy um, has been playing it because they gave you the ability to get your achievements, but the in-game achievements, not the Steam achievements. But let's see why Amazon killed New World.
Amazon owns the servers that run half the internet. So how did its big new game, New World, end up this broken? Players made gold out of nothing. They cooked their graphics cards. They turned themselves invincible by dragging a window around. It became a record-breaking hit anyway. Then Amazon eventually made the decision to kill it. None of that is even the strange part. Plenty of games launch broken. The strange part is who built this one. Amazon. One of the most powerful companies on the planet. The company whose machines quietly run a huge slice of the internet you use every
I also forgot to mention this, and I wonder if he's going to mention this in this video. Amazon is trying to sell New World, but it was originally marketed for like 21 mil. And then the person who created Rust put out an offer to buy it for that exact amount, and it was like a month ago I saw this that Amazon increased the price to 25 mil, which is fucking wild that they did that. Like if they're shutting down this game, they should at least sell it to someone who actively wants it and then make some money back.
single day. A company with effectively unlimited money and computing power built a game that fell apart like this. It became a genuine phenomenon anyway. And then years later, Amazon looked at the whole thing and chose to delete it. The broken launch, the deletion, all of it traces back to one fact that almost nobody understood at the time. The fact that Amazon was never really trying to make a great game in the first place. And it starts long before New World existed at all. It starts in 2012, with the man Amazon put in charge of making its games. A man who had never made a single video game in his life. His name was Mike Frazzini, and by every account, he was good at his job. The thing is, his job for most of his career had nothing to do with games. Frazzini was a long-time Amazon employee. He had come up through the books department, running the part of Amazon's store that sold video games by mail in cardboard boxes. He was the guy who sold games, not the guy who made them. And then, around 2012, Amazon decided it wanted to make games of its own. Video games were one of the biggest entertainment businesses on Earth, and Jeff Bezos wanted a piece of it.
I'm pretty sure they just thought, oh, he sells games, it's the same thing. I'm pretty sure that was their thought process.
And Frazzini, the books guy, was put in charge of all of it, including eventually the studio that would make New World. So Frazzini ran games the way Amazon ran everything else. By the numbers. People who worked with him said he was fond of a particular phrase. Anything can be measured.
If it's run the same way Amazon's run, for them making their games, are they handed the same piss jugs that the drivers are supposed to have, so they don't take stops?
Which works beautifully if you are selling books or socks or cloud storage. It works a lot less beautifully when the thing you are trying to measure is fun. Over in the rest of the games industry, the phrase people use is finding the fun. And the entire point of it is that you cannot really measure fun until you already have it. Amazon wanted its games approved the way it approved everything else, with data and 6-page documents. And former employees described a standing demand that came down from the top. Every Amazon game had to be a billion-dollar franchise. And then the projects were understaffed. The company tried, in the words of one investigation into all this, to make games the Amazon way, instead of just making games people would actually want to play. All of it cost an enormous amount of money. By the time the press started paying attention, Amazon's games division was burning through something like $500 million a year. And for years, it had almost nothing to show for it. The list of casualties got long. A hero shooter called Crucible actually launched, then got yanked back into testing within weeks, and quietly killed. Another game, called Breakaway, died before it ever came out. 2 separate Lord of the Rings online games were announced to great excitement and then cancelled. Everything was supposed to be a billion-dollar franchise. Almost nothing ever launched at all. New World was supposed to be the exception, the one that finally worked. Instead, it became the one that broke in front of the entire world. And this is the part of the story that almost everybody gets a little bit wrong. The gold made out of nothing, the graphics cards cooking themselves, all the rest of it. The easy explanation, the one you have probably heard, is that this is just what happens when a soulless corporation that does not understand games tries to make one. That is the vibe, but it is not the mechanism. The real reason runs straight through a single piece of software almost nobody outside the company was even thinking about. The game engine. A game engine is the foundation that every video game is built on. It is the software that draws the world, runs the physics, handles everything you see and do on screen. Most studios either build their own over many years or pay to license a good one. In 2015, Amazon did something different. It paid somewhere between $50 and $70 million to license an existing engine called CryEngine, took that technology, built its own version on top of it, and called it Lumberyard. Then Amazon made Lumberyard mandatory. Every game the company made, New World included, had to be built on it. But Lumberyard was never really built to make Amazon's games better. Lumberyard was built to sell Amazon's cloud. The engine was wired, deliberately, into Amazon Web Services. That is the company's cloud computing business. The part of Amazon...
Is this why, like, there was like a time, like last year, it was either last year or the year before, that, no, it had to be last year, that Amazon kept giving out like a bunch of free games on their own website, but it had to be from their website. And I play New World from Steam, and some of the people I know that plays New World from Amazon, it doesn't fully like work. Like there's crashing at times. It doesn't do it anymore, but it did like a year ago. Is that why they constantly gave out like games that was like a solid like off that you'll play for like 10 minutes and be done with it?
That rents out servers to basically everyone else on the internet and quietly earns most of the company's profit. The whole idea was that Lumberyard would be free and excellent, and every studio that adopted it would get gently funneled toward building and hosting their games on Amazon's servers. The engine did not exist to serve the game, it existed to sell the cloud, which tells you what New World really was. At the deepest level, New World was the showcase, the flagship proof for the entire games industry to see that you could build an enormous online world on Amazon's engine and run the whole thing on Amazon servers. The game was, in a very real sense, a sales pitch, one that happened to come with a $60 price tag. And publicly, Lumberyard was a gift. A free professional-grade engine. Here you go, developers, courtesy of Amazon. Inside the company, the people actually trying to make a game on it told a very different story. The engine was slow. It was painful to work with. Former developers described sitting around playing Halo or watching Amazon Prime Video while they waited.
Yeah, this game went through like 4 groups of developers. Like all the original developers have not been there for years, like almost a decade at this point.
For Lumberyard to compile their code or process their art. And there was a phrase that went around the office about the engine that was supposed to be Amazon's secret weapon. Lumberyard is killing this company. So picture the situation. Amazon is building its big new game on an engine its own developers say is killing the company. An engine built first and foremost to sell cloud storage, not to make a great game. And in July of 2021, just 12 weeks before New World was launched,
which is sad because New World is actually pretty fun.
It open sourced Lumberyard, handing the whole thing to an independent.
I probably should say this. It's fun to a point. Like it was like a DLC or something or seasonal. I don't remember. Usually Gar corrects me on this. the final act of the game's story, which involves fighting the trees instead of the corrupted, that is like the weakest story ever, and it's not really that good. It builds up to like something past it, but it never went to it ever. And honestly, when we did like seasonal stuff for this game, that was like the one area I dread so much. Like I hated going to that area. I would much rather stay in the desert biome and fight there.
Foundation to be developed out in the open, while Amazon itself moved on to building a successor. And even giving it away was a cloud play. A free open engine that anyone could build on was an even better way to funnel developers toward Amazon's servers than a private one had ever been. The engine kept changing shape. The reason it existed never changed at all. So New World ran on Amazon's own private fork of that engine, a piece of technology built first to sell a cloud business, now quietly holding up one of the biggest games of the year. That strange arrangement sat underneath New World for years, and almost nobody gave it a second thought. But the engine was not finished with New World. It had one last part to play, right at the very end, and it would help decide whether the game got to live or die. That engine was the foundation. The real question was what Amazon was going to build on top of it, and the answer, at first, was not the game you remember at all. For its first few years of development, New World was a survival game. If you have ever played something like Rust, you already know the genre. You wash up on a hostile
Now it makes sense why Rust dev
everything you have
wanted it.
You have to build, gather, or take from someone else. There were no quests and no story to follow. Just a world, other players, and the things you could do to each other. You could build a fort wherever you wanted, and crucially, almost everyone in that world could kill you at almost any time. Amazon's own
So like a different type of RuneScape.
Generally, it was full loot and open world, with only small outposts acting as safe zones. Full loot. It meant that when you died, you did not just respawn and dust yourself off. You dropped everything. All your gear, all your inventory. Gone. Lying on your corpse for whoever killed you to take. To attack another player, you flagged yourself with something the game called criminal intent. And if you died while you were flagged, in Amazon's own words, you would experience full gear and inventory loss. The studio said the game's DNA was closer to Rust and to EVE Online than it ever was to World of Warcraft. There was just one problem with this beautiful, brutal vision. When Amazon actually let players into it, during a closed test that ran from late 2018 into the middle of 2019, the players did not build a noble frontier society. They became monsters, and Amazon documented exactly what went wrong.
No. You mean to tell me that the players wanted to be monsters and figure out the determination of how to be evil? Oh my god, who could have thought? They probably just watched Warframe and saw how nice everybody is. Like, I don't know another community that's nicer than the Warframe community. To be honest. Most of the time you're going to see people do evil shit. And it's like such a small number.
In its own words, some high-level players, the studio wrote, were killing low-level players. A lot.
Honestly, I don't remember what season it was. There was a season that was PvP on at all times. And this season honestly made me not want to play it at all. To be honest, because like when you start up the game, you have to go through like the tutorial island and all that and fight the second to last boss to get him down to a certain point. And when you get to the beach, there's like 2 beach spawns. You have to go to the castle, and when you go to the castle, you're in a safe zone. But, and here's the big but part, when you leave the castle, you have to go to the zombie pirates like area. I forgot what was it called off the top of my head. You go there, there was like a group of people just like camping out there, killing all the people there. And I remember when I streamed it, and this is like kind of my issue with New World, with the new player experience of like, if you if you and like a group of, let's say, 3 people start up the game, because I'm using 3 as an example because this happened with me, Peggy, and Gar, to where we started up this season, where PvP was active. Here's the stupid part that I don't like. They have 2 beaches that is just newbie spawn zones. They are on the other side of the map. You can't get there because then you're going to suffer because there's like level 50 enemies there. And Peggy and Gar went to the beach up north. I was stuck down south, and I was stuck with this player for so fucking long. It was like 2 hours I was stuck here that I had to get the 2 of them to stop what they were doing when they were like level 12, and I was stuck at like level like 4 or 5 to come down and help me and deal with these like group of people that was just camping this one area and just consistently spawn killing people. And it doesn't really help that this particular area also teaches you how to put down your campsite, which is a respawn zone, and you have to put it in that area somewhere. And so they were just camping all these tents and just like constantly killing people. The ones that wasn't killing people was out there destroying trees to get lumber up because you could cheese the leveling system that way. That problem has never ended with New World until they had designated like PvP areas. Which even by then, that's not really that fun. Final Fantasy XIV has a decent community, but both have clowns. Yeah. That I will agree with on that. I've had more on the good side of Final Fantasy XIV whenever I play it. But honestly, Warframe, I have not experienced one shitty person on Warframe at all. But yeah, this PvP thing of like this whole crap of just destroying low-level players was honestly the thing that drove me insane this one season. It like there was 4? Yeah, there had to be like 4 because I remember I was really active in like 2 seasons. And I had to skip a season just to catch up with like the leveling. One of the seasons was just like you couldn't transfer anything over. For seasonal stuff, you had to make a whole new character and start from scratch again just to get all the seasonal stuff to actually matter. And that shit broke me so much because I had to deal with this asshole for like 2 hours. And because he did do the tree thing where like you mine the trees or the rocks and then you turn them in, you get like this special like dust thing. I forgot what it was called. And then you leveled up. He was already like level 20 at this point in time. Just killing all the like the level 5s and 6s at this one spot that we could not progress the story. And yes, while there was like 2 starting spawn point areas, if you somehow made it to the other spawn point area, it would not count as you progressing because that was not the area that you had the quest in. So that was like the stupid thing that people had to deal with. And I guess they had to deal with it for a while.
Sometimes exclusively. This often led to griefing scenarios that created a toxic environment for many players. In plain terms, the strong found the weak and farmed them for sport. One of the senior producers on the game, a developer named Katie Kaczynski, described the kind of thing testers actually did with all that freedom. The plan had been for people to head out into the world and build their own homes and forts. And build forts they did. Then someone figured out that if you threw up one enormous wall around a fort and then lured a bear inside it, the bear would maul anyone who tried to break in. So they used more bears, turning the game's own wildlife into a private security system that made their bases physically impossible for rivals to crack. That is the kind of creativity Amazon was dealing with. Amazon tried to patch around the griefing. It added rules, restrictions, protections for new players. None of it really worked.
Fuck no, it
didn't. In December
didn't.
of 2019 and on into early 2020, the studio made the decision that would define everything that came after. It did not tweak the full loot system. It killed it. The game's director, a man named Scott Lane, described all the anti-griefing fixes they had tried as band-aids. And rather than keep layering on more band-aids, Amazon ripped the whole thing out. open world, full loot, gone. Forced player versus player combat, gone. In its place came an opt-in system.
It's hard to run into bad eggs in Warframe
also
unless it's a
chose to
wave-based
fight.
mission or defense
A few
mission
months
where
later,
chances
Scott
are
Lane closed
higher.
the door for good.
I don't think I've divulged that much into wave-based missions. I know I have a few times just to crack some of the spheres I have to try to get some of the prime craftable stuff, like the chassis and all that, but like I don't think I've experienced that. Huh.
I have no plans, he said, to bring back open world, full loot player versus player combat. Now, you can...
That's a fucking lie. Because there's a season behind it that was like... Let's see here. I skipped. I don't remember what season I skipped. It was the season that you get the corrupted armor. That was the last one I played. There was a vampire one. I think there was something before the vampire, so I think I skipped 2 of them. But the one before the corrupted armor was that PvP server I was talking about. So that was a lie.
read that decision 2 ways, and the argument over which reading is right is still going on today. The first reading is the one we just walked through. The players themselves killed the original vision. They proved that a no-rules, full loot sandbox just turns into a bullying simulator, and Amazon did the responsible thing by pulling back. But there is a second reading. It says New World did not die for being too hardcore. It died because Amazon lost its nerve. The moment the studio sanded off everything dangerous and specific and interesting about its game and turned it into one more safe, familiar game where you just follow quest markers from one task to the next. It threw away the only thing that ever made it special. Both of these can be true at once. The players did force Amazon's hand, and Amazon's response may well have been the fatal mistake. Hold on to that second reading, because years later, long after everything else had happened to this game, the exact survival genre that New World abandoned in 2019 would come back around, and it would show up in the most unlikely way imaginable.
Is he talking about that season?
To make Amazon an offer. So Amazon made the safe bet. The survival sandbox was gone. In its place was something far more conventional, a big, polished, massively multiplayer online game. The kind with quests and levels and crafting that millions of players already understood. Familiar and safe, and built very deliberately for mass appeal. And for one brief, incredible moment, that safe bet looked like the smartest decision Amazon...
Here's my thing about this. With a game like New World, I know they have this now, but I don't know if they had this at launch. They should have just had PvE and PvP servers. Like, not everyone's going to want to go into a game and deal with PvP. And let's be real, they can't really expect a community to be the way that they built the game for, because there's always... This is the thing with like speedrunners. Speedrunners love to find ways to break games to enhance the speedrunning, which is like either get it outside the map, find a glitch that they'll never patch. They'll try to find a way to screw with something. You always have to assume 1 out of the 10 people is like a bad egg, and you just have to like figure out all alternatives around it.
Amazon had ever made. But first, the summer of 2021 served up one last piece of pre-launch chaos, and it was deeply on brand. During the beta, New World started physically killing graphics cards. Some players, mostly the owners of one very expensive high-end card, watched their hardware die while testing the beta. The cause turned out to be 2 things stacked on top of each other. New World let its frame rate run completely uncapped, even on static menu screens, which drove the cards to their absolute limit. And a batch of those particular cards had bad soldering from the factory. Amazon capped the frame rate, the card maker replaced the dead units, and the real problem was actually fairly narrow. But the headline was not narrow at all.
So, wait a minute. If the cards had bad soldering on it, and the game broke off of New World, I would still say that's a bit of New World's fault, but I would also, me being me, I would probably argue that if the card had bad soldering, that would most it wouldn't be 100% the company for the cards. I would mostly, it would be like a 60-40 thing. It would be like it's half the card and half the game, but uh a little bit more in the card because then they sold a faulty product on that. And the reason why New World is like still at a 40 is because it required so much that it found the problem. But New World's not really a demanding game, honestly.
Tool. New World is killing graphics cards. And even though the problem was solved, many still associate New World with killing their graphics card after the incident. And then on September 28th, 2021, New World launched. For real. And it did not just do well, it exploded. On launch day, the game hit a peak of 707,230 people playing at the same time, and it kept climbing. 5 days later, on October 3rd, New World peaked at 913,634 concurrent players.
Damn.
To put that in perspective, that made it roughly the 5th most played game in the entire history of Steam, behind only a tiny handful of all-time giants. It was the single most played new game of all of 2021. It shattered the record that Valheim had set earlier that same year. For a brand new franchise, from a studio everyone had written off, it was a staggering, almost unbelievable success. And that success went all the way to the top. On October 1st, with the numbers still climbing, Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, and at the time one of the richest people alive, posted publicly about the game. After many failures and setbacks in gaming, he wrote, "We have a success. So proud of the team." And then he made it personal. Months earlier, in January of 2021, a major business publication had run a long investigation into Amazon's games division. Under a headline that did not pull any punches, Amazon can make just about anything except a good video game. Bezos linked to that brutal article and set it right beside the fresh headlines now celebrating his record-breaking launch. 2 stories about Amazon and video games. And as he pointed out, they had been published only 8 months apart. It was a victory lap. The richest man on earth personally dunking on the reporters who had said his company could not make a good game 8 months after they said it. And you can understand why. 900,000 players is a hard number to argue with. By every measure that existed that week, the article had been proven spectacularly wrong. Except the article was not wrong. It had only arrived early. Everything it described, the corporate machine that never understood games, the engine built to sell cloud, and a graveyard of projects that kept collapsing under their own impossible mandates, was all still sitting right there underneath the record-breaking launch. It just had not finished its work yet, because the cracks started showing almost immediately.
To be honest, that kind of aligns with what I say a lot, that I'm so sick and tired of like games having the early access title, because they kind of use that as an excuse now. Like Fortnite had its early access title for years, and they kept that as like a defense mechanism for like, oh, the game is not perfect, that's why we're pushing out updates. And then you had people like also saying like, this game sucks, it's in early access though, give it time. And it's like, how far can that excuse go? And I think that excuse has like kind of run out of its course forever over the last couple of years, because now we are just getting games that has a movable character with nothing in it, and we're being told to wait on stuff. Like, one of the most common things I'm hearing, and I don't remember who I was talking to about this. It was a mixture of RuneScape Dragon Wilds and Windrose. And I try to bring Subnautica into this a little bit, of like, the game is out, it's fun for now, but like, we realistically have like an hour's worth of like the game in it, and that's a big if, because lately everybody's been treating of like, oh, let's take fucking let's take Windrose for example. Winrose, in the state it is, it gets an update. The update adds a fucking plant. Just one plant, and that's it. And then we treat it like the second coming. And after a week, everyone's like, yeah, I'm going to wait for more stuff to be added in. And just adding in that plant usually takes like 4 to 5 months, if that. Lately, it's been like a year because we've allowed early access to be at the point of like, oh, just give them time. It's like, and then they shut down the game because of the fact they didn't get the money they wanted from the early access title of the game. It's ridiculous.
Immediately, with 900,000 people trying to log in at once, the servers buckled and players faced login queues that ran for hours. And there was an irony the community seized on instantly, that the one company on Earth that rents out more server power than almost anyone, the company whose entire cloud business is built on handling massive demand, could not keep people logged into its own video game. Some players took it a step further and said out loud what more than a few of them had quietly worked out for themselves. That New World looked an awful lot like a very expensive advertisement for the exact cloud technology Amazon was trying to sell to everyone else. But
It could have
queues were
been.
just the warm-up. To deal with the overcrowding, Amazon asked players for a favour: spread out, move your characters onto the emptier, newer servers to relieve the pressure. And do not worry, you will get free transfers later so you can move back to your friends. So players did. They moved out to the empty servers exactly like they were asked. And then came the fine print. When the free transfers finally arrived, weeks late, they came with 2 catches Amazon had never made clear. The first: you could not transfer between regions at all. If your friends were playing on the other side of the world, your only way to join them was to throw your character away and start over, from 0. The second: you could not transfer onto a server that was already full, which of course described precisely the busy, popular servers your friends were actually on. So the players who had done Amazon the favour, who had spread out to the ghost towns to help, were now trapped in them. They had been promised a road back to their friends. There wasn't one. It was the first time players reached for a phrase that would come to define New World's whole relationship with them: bait and switch. And it happened just weeks before the thing that nearly ended the game outright. In the middle of October 2021, Amazon finally opened those server transfers back up, and almost immediately it had to slam them shut again. Because a player had figured out that if you forced your character into a particular broken state during a transfer, the game would let you duplicate your gold. Copy it. Make money out of thin air. Amazon had already moved around 100.
Why would you do that? Getting gold in this game is easy.
Transfers, the trading post, player-to-player trading, basically the entire economy, all shut off at once. And then it got stranger. Players discovered that you could type raw web code straight into the game's chat box, and the game would simply run it. You could crash other people's games, tamper with their files,
Shit.
even make the game hand you free gold. The economy got switched off, switched back on, then switched off again while Amazon scrambled to keep up. And so the story that everybody told about New World's economy became a story about exploits. Hackers and dupers flooding the game with infinite gold, wrecking everything with runaway inflation, too much money chasing.
To be honest, I think I only came across like one hacker in this game. I think. I didn't really do that much PvP because PvP in here was like kind of annoying at some point in time because they did hide like the artifact armor and sometimes artifact weapons behind the passes that you can't get anymore, which they did later change. But there was like a few times that I think it was me and Willie playing that we came across a hacker. Because I can distinctly remember one time Willie losing his shit with this guy one time that was in a pure PvP zone that he was doing stuff with his skills that didn't make sense. And he did later try it out and he could never recreate what he did. There might have been more I came across, but I don't remember them.
Too few goods. That version is true. It is just not the whole story. Because underneath all the dramatic, visible chaos of the dupes, New World's economy was quietly dying of the exact opposite problem. There was too little money in the game, not too much. And the players who were paying close attention figured this out in real time while it was happening, and they turned out to be exactly right. New World was sliding into deflation. Deflation works like this. In most online games of this kind, the world itself buys and sells things. There are computer-controlled shopkeepers who will always pay you a baseline price for an item and always sell you the basics at a set cost. Those shopkeepers put a floor under the entire economy. New World, by deliberate design, did not have them. The developers wanted a pure player-driven economy where every price was set by real people trading with each other, not by the game. They thought it would make the whole world feel more alive and real. It sounded elegant. It turned out to be the seed of the whole disaster, because at the same time, New World was constantly pulling money back out of the world. Repairing your gear cost coin. So did crafting, the taxes on any property you owned, and the upkeep on whatever territory your factory.
Wait a minute, does crafting cost coin? I don't remember that. I do know repairing your gear costs coin, and that's why, like, the midpoint of the game, I think it was, like, right before the main war. I always did struggle because, like, leveling up to the max level, I never did repair my gear until I was max level, and I started getting, like, purple tier gear, but for, like, the longest time in the story, you're gonna be stuck between green and blue. Like, if you're going through the story of New World, 90% of the, well, maybe 80. Like, I'm going to say 80. Like, 80% of the game, you're going to be, like, getting that 1 or 2 purples that you're going to be, like, conflicted on swapping out for the blue that's better. I do remember with, like, every time I had to go through the story because of the seasons, because you had to make a seasonal character and restart it. I always did struggle around that part, and that was, like, the middle part of the game. And it was never until I was, like, max level that I worried more about purple gear. But I don't remember with crafting needing gold. Unless I'm thinking of the jewelry thing, because jewelry thing you didn't really need gold for. You just needed the parts. And tethering.
Controlled. And not nearly enough new gold was coming in to replace it. So the money supply started to shrink, and with no shopkeepers setting a price floor, nothing stopped the slide. When money gets scarce and keeps getting more valuable, people stop spending it. Why hand over a coin today when that same coin will be worth more tomorrow? So players started hoarding their gold and refusing to buy. Players were still producing the actual goods, the ore and the cloth.
Oh, is this where the real world trading came in? Because some people did sell gear for real money.
Items started selling for the lowest number the game would even allow, 1/100th of a single coin. And then players gave up on money altogether and reverted to the oldest economy there is. They went back to barter, trading goods directly for other goods. This got strange enough that it attracted someone you would never expect to find anywhere near a video game. A professional financial economist, a man named Joachim Clement, sat down and wrote the whole thing up. Not as a gaming story, but as a lesson in monetary policy. The economy of New World, he wrote, dropped into deflation. Within days, the deflation became so severe that people were resorting to barter, offering 1,000 linen for 600 ore and 20 eggs. The title of his piece was, "This is why we need fiat money." And that title is worth slowing down on because it points at the actual lesson, hiding inside a video game's broken economy. In the real
Plus, to be fair, there's a lot of stuff people don't really buy in the barter thing. Like take take health potions for example. People don't really buy tier 2 to I'm going to say tier 4. But there is a lot of people that buy tier 1 because I think tier 1 can be used for like a certain type of crafting. And obviously tier 6 was like the, not 6, 5 was the highest. On a rare occasion you can buy 4. But you get so much health potions, I think it's like 4 stacks of it. If you actually pay attention to your health and shit. That you just can't sell it. You're stuck with these potions and they're just going to be sitting in your vault, and you could try sell them to a vendor, I don't think you can anymore, but you'll be screwed.
In the real world, economies do not run on autopilot. When prices start to spiral in either direction, a central bank can step in and adjust how much money is circulating. A government can, in the last resort, simply create more. That entire apparatus of modern money exists for one reason: to stop an economy from seizing up the exact way New World's did. And New World had none of it. No central bank, no treasury, nobody anywhere with the power or the tools to manage its money supply. It was a pure, unregulated economy, left completely to its own devices. And it died in precisely the way the textbooks say: an economy with nobody minding, the money will always die. New World did not just happen to have a broken economy, it accidentally ran the experiment that explains why every real economy on Earth is managed in the first place. And the part that still lands years later is that the players had called all of it before The Economist ever showed up. Deep in New World's community, weeks earlier, people had laid the entire mechanism out correctly. They described the money leaving the game faster than it came in. They predicted accurately that the end game of all this would be players standing around swapping raw materials like medieval farmers.
They still do that to this day.
And one of them, half joking, predicted that economists were going to start writing articles about New World's deflation crisis. Then an economist did exactly that. This was a community diagnosing its own game in real time, correctly, and then watching its own predictions come true one by one. By the time Amazon wrestled the dupes and the exploits, and the economy back under some kind of control, the damage was already done. The player-driven economy that was supposed to be New World's beating heart, the thing that made the whole world feel alive, had eaten itself in a matter of weeks. And the people watching the player count had started to notice something. One of the biggest launches in Steam's history had stopped growing. It had started to shrink. Fast. The fall was breathtaking. From that record peak of more than 900,000, New World's player count did not gently drift downward. It fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
Within weeks, it had dropped below 50,000. By January of 2022...
Plus, I'm going to say this, because this is true. I honestly believe this game releasing on console for both PlayStation and Xbox also did help kill this game, because of the fact that PlayStation and Xbox has a lot of restrictions on stuff. And one of the things that New World players had a lot of freedom on was their names. And Shanks kind of did this too. But to be fair, Shanks, he went through 3 or 4 names. I don't fully remember all of the names that he had, but he just kept doing the same thing that a lot of people did in New World, where he was just battling people for the PvP stuff. He says it wasn't intentional because somebody just kept following him when he went to a spot. I don't know the fullness of that truth, but it's too late now for this. And it also doesn't really help at the time that this game released on console. They kind of favored console side a lot more. That if you report someone, it's a one report and done. But on the console one, people kept mass reporting, and they could never prove anything besides the names. And on the PC side, you had a lot more freedom for the names. Xbox and PlayStation would tell you this name's not acceptable for the open world part. It goes against TOS, blah 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 blah, all that shit. And with Shanks, it was a group of 4 people, I think, 4 or 5, I don't remember. They just mass reported him 20 times, each person, and they banned him. He appealed it. It took him a week to look at it, and was okay, we've actually reviewed your perspective of it. We reviewed them. They sat around for an hour just constantly reporting the same account over and over again, because from what they saw, they lost the PvP battle of 1v4, and he came back. These people hated Shanks so much. When they saw that he came back, we are underneath the assumption of this, that they notified these 4 people that Shanks got unbanned, and then within an hour he got banned again for the same thing, and then he just said, "Fuck it, I'm done." So there was a bit of favoritism within that. Like New World never really like knew what they were doing half the time. So like the mass player drop off, a lot of PC people dropped off this game because of the console side.
Just a few months after one of the biggest launches Steam had ever seen, the game was down to around 60,000 concurrent players. Now every big game loses players after launch. That part is normal. But there is a difference between...
It's usually like 20 or 30% of players. Like if you look at like a game releasing and then 100%, like a game release, you have 100% player base right there. You will lose like 20% right off the bat of people who only play games like on the Steam. I'm speaking mostly on Steam side of this, to where like 20% will play for like 119 minutes, which is like below the 2-hour mark, and they'll refund the game and they'll keep the $60 to $70 to $80 and they'll move that to the next game because like people are sociopaths within that shit. Then you got like another, I like to say it's 40%. It might be less, but the reason why I'm saying it's 40% is because games are dying off so much faster than they should be on launch, of people who buy games, play it for like 10 minutes. And these are the reviewers who actually play the games. There's been a lot of reviewers that got called out for just watching gameplay and basing the review off the gameplay, to where like they play the game for like 10 to 20 minutes. They get off the game, put out their review. They got their video up. They're done. They delete the game. They refund it. Sometimes they don't refund it. They keep it to see like 1 year later or some shit. And they'll never come back to the game. Then you have like another 30 to 40. Sometimes it's more. It's based upon the game because the game never releases fully working. A lot of people base the game at launch. So if the servers suck, they'll never come back because the servers suck day one. And they'll never process that through their thick skulls about like the servers are never going to work day one. Like case in point, look at Battlefield. I think besides Battlefield 6, no Battlefield game has ever worked on launch. And so what's left of that player base, that's your core player core player base that you have that's going to stick around with the game. There might be people that's just waiting for the game to get fixed, but any new player that you're going to see, they know the game's going to come out broken, then they're going to come out a lot later, like sometimes usually on average like 6 months to a year later.
Normal, and what happened here. A game that launches with 20,000 players and settles at 10. That is the business working as intended. A game that launches with 900,000 and then bleeds away more than 90% of them in a few months. That is not a decline. That is a collapse. And the people walking away were not...
No. A collapse is Concord.
Exactly bored.
That's
anything, the way most
that's a funny collapse.
Was darker than boredom. The game did not bore them into leaving, they said. It broke so badly and so often that it forced them to stop. Part of it was the endless parade of exploits, which had become almost a genre unto itself. There was a fundamental engineering problem underneath a lot of New World's bugs. One the wider gaming world diagnosed...
God, thinking about this now, I need to ask Gar if I can do this. Gar used to put out like guide videos, and I wonder if any of them involved the exploits. I never asked him if they did. I'll ask him that. Like, I'll look at some of his old build stuff and see if like any of them were exploits or something. Like Gar's not really a person that goes with exploits to like fully break the game unless like the game is like complete fucking trash. And even by then, I can't think of any game that he's done that with. But I wonder with his old like build guides for this, if any of them have that or something.
Pretty mercilessly. The game, in essence, trusted the player's computer far too much. It would believe whatever your machine told it, instead of checking for itself on Amazon's servers. And once players realised that, cheating became almost trivial. You could turn yourself invincible just by dragging a game window around your screen. People teleported across the map, duplicated items, edited their own stats at will. None of this required exotic.
Now, I will agree. This stat system is infuriating at times. And the only reason why I say it's infuriating, and it was the one thing that drove me insane, is armor was a part of this. Armor was such a part of this that if you already had, like, okay, if you were going for a build, and like let's say for strength, you were already at like here, I think this is like 350. I think I don't remember what the dots were. The dots were activating for these, and you found an armor that boosts you like 100%. You would only get 50% of it, so you would have to reset every fucking thing to build around that armor just to get it up to where you wanted, which normally was like 350. This system kind of drove me insane, and I got down to the point I just told everybody, just tell me what to put the points in, because this is math I cannot handle right now. And it was 100% of the time. This system annoyed the shit out of me. It's not bad, but it was just the armor shit that annoyed me. Hey, content. How are you? Do I? Yeah, I still do have Gears 2 on there.
Edge hacking. These were the kind of basic security holes that online games had solved decades earlier. Players started pointing out that New World was busy rediscovering bugs that games like Ultima Online and RuneScape had patched out 20 years before. And to Amazon's credit, the people running the game admitted it. Scott Lane, the game's director, said it plainly that December. "We've made some mistakes," he said, "by moving too fast." The team had been so busy fighting fires, he admitted, that they had not done a good enough job actually communicating with their players. The exploits, he said, had eaten an enormous share of the team's time and energy. But the exploits, as bad as they were, eventually got patched. The deeper problem could not be, because it was baked into the design itself, specifically into what happened when you reached the end of the game. Players who pushed all the way to the maximum level discovered that New World's endgame was, to put it kindly, thin.
I agree. If you max out your level in New World, and you have done the story, which most of the time you will reach max level before you finish the story, you will learn that you are now officially in a cycle. You have one of two choices. Either A, go do the story all over again, because there's 2 beaches that does double story. That's the same fucking thing, but different locations. And you can do that for gear that 90% of the time it's not good. Or you can just do the same dungeons over and over again and hope to God you get your drops. Or do the achievements. That was also broken.
Verdict among the people who stuck around was brutal. A tiny handful of dungeons, run over and over, a couple of quest types, and a gear grind built entirely around repeating the same content for slightly better numbers. Scott Lane more or less conceded the point himself, admitting that the game was funneling players toward a very small portion of its endgame mechanics. And then there was the war. New World's big signature endgame event was a massive faction battle. 50 players on one side, 50 on the other, fighting over control of territory. It looked spectacular. It was the thing the whole endgame was supposed to be.
It did look fun, honestly, and I never partaked in this.
The people who cared the most. A guild in New World could hold around 100 players. A single war only had room for 50 of them on your side. And the person who decided which 50 actually got to play was the guild leader, who handpicked the roster, which meant that for most players, the marquee...
And I can't speak for every guild. I only know of one guild that I never did join, but I was associated with. And they were called Milk Run. I never did join them because like they went to like the degree of like contract stuff. And there were some things in there I didn't fully agree with. But from how I was explained how they did things, in the guild and how they handled like certain like other aspects like in the game of like who handles with what team, who does what, how they handled like plans for everything. They were pretty solid on that. And I did help them out one time with something. They were doing a raid and they asked me to help them out with it. And because I told them I'll associate with you guys and help out when you can, when you need help or something, just let me know. Which they did take me up on that offer a few times. Um, but the guilds in New World was like very like they were all in on it. So I can say the guilds in here was like dependent on them. I'm sure there's like a few annoying guilds, but like they were pretty solid.
Endgame event. The entire reason you ground your way to max level.
And before anybody else know,
and then almost never.
I didn't join Milk Run because of my history with guilds with Halo 5, because I did join a guild for Halo 5 to get the Achilles armor, which I never got from them. I did later get from like other people that was a part of that guild that they saw what happened to me. Like I started a full-on guild war inside that was like so much drama because the leader was an asshole. I did not join them because of like my past guild experience. It was because I didn't want to like fully like commit to that at the time.
Actually get to do. The community even coined a word for the hardcore players who would only log in for these battles, monopolizing the limited slots. Warloggers. The whole system, players pointed out, was built to work for maybe 2% of the people playing, and to lock out the other 98. And as the population kept bleeding out, Amazon's solution made the war problem worse instead of better. To keep the increasingly empty servers feeling alive, Amazon began merging them together, server after server, wave after wave.
Yeah.
For 2 years. And every merge...
There's only 3 servers in the game, and it's... I don't want to say it's like hell to get in, but like when a new season starts, good luck. Like, I know the server I was a part of started with an S. I think it was like Sunday or something. But whenever I started playing the game, there was 4 servers, and then like one season later they removed the 4th one, and then it was just 3. So they did start merging a lot of the servers.
Crammed even more players into competition for the same tiny number of war slots. The thing that was supposed to keep people playing was now actively shoving them out the door. For the players who stayed, the next 2 years became a grind of a different kind, begging Amazon for the next merge, just to keep their towns from turning into ghost towns. And through all of it, one thing stayed consistent, and it is worth noticing. The anger almost never pointed at the developers. Players could see the team was trying. The blame went up the chain, past the people making the game, to Amazon and the machine that had rushed it out the door, and then starved it of a...
Boy, I wish we can do that with Destiny. My God, like we've now know Destiny is like a clusterfuck of information, but at least the devs cared.
Real plan. By 2024, New World had become a quiet game. A loyal core of players still loved it, still logged into mine and craft and build in a world they had come to find deeply peaceful. But the records were a distant memory. And then Amazon took one more big swing. On October 15th, 2024, it relaunched the entire thing as New World Eternum. This was the console gamble. For the first time, New World came to PlayStation.
This, if I ask Shanks this right now, if I bring him in here on a call and I ask him when did New World die, he will say this moment, Eternum killed the game, 100%, and he still says this to this day.
PlayStation 5 and Xbox, with full crossplay between consoles and PC, combat rebuilt for a controller. All the old content plus new raids and zones bolted on top. Christoph Hartmann, the executive who ran Amazon's games division, called it an unforgettable adventure. And it worked for a few weeks. On Steam, the relaunch pulled the game's best numbers in over a year, a peak somewhere in the high 50,000s. Add in the console players.
Hold the
it nearly
fuck up.
touched 100.
How old is this video? 6 days. 6 days ago, this game got a max of 689 players. Oh, I need to see how many's playing now. And that the update of them getting their achievements was like 2 weeks ago.
1,000. Respectable. But 100,000 is not 900,000, and the spike faded almost as fast as it arrived. Within weeks, the players had drifted off again, and the loyal core of players who stayed.
Okay, this is probably different. Okay,
After the biggest, most important launch in years, Amazon went quiet. There was, as the players put it, no roadmap coming. No clear sign of what was next.
Oh my god, the roadmap. The roadmap pissed me off when I saw it. Oh my god. They, at one point in time, started doing roadmaps for the game. I don't remember what season it was, but they showed off a roadmap. They maybe told us like 2 or 3 things were coming, and they had like 50 things planned. And then they had another section where it was like what's not coming. And granted, that was a much smaller list of like what was happening, but when the roadmap after that came out, the list did not change at all. They did not bring anything that they had that they wanted to like bring into the game. It was still there. Okay. I don't think this is better, but here, hold on. Let me pull this up. I hate pausing in the middle of a video, but like there's something I've just noticed. I wanted to see New World at the current moment. This current moment of New World. 544 people are playing right now and 671 just by today. Oh my god. And these are people that already own the game because you can't buy New World anymore. Like they took that ability away to buy the game. Like I think for 6 months at this point, they took New World off the Steam shop. Ooh, damn. It is 100% of the COD 4 meme. 50,000 people used to live here. Now it's a ghost town. Damn.
The team had even given a public talk about the importance of communicating with your players. And then, the moment it actually mattered, went silent. Except the relaunch was not New World's last chapter, and that is what makes the ending so much crueler. About a year later, in the autumn of 2025, Amazon released a season of content called Night Haven, and by the accounts of the people still playing it, this was the best update the game had ever gotten. After years of stumbles,
Oh my god, Destiny pulled a New World. Thinking about this now. Destiny 2 pulled a New World. Because Destiny 2 is in its best state it's ever been in since the launch of Destiny 1. Well, I actually really did love the Iron Lords DLC. Like, most of the DLC from Destiny 1 I really liked. The one I didn't really care for the most was Crota's. Like, that one felt like it was all about the raid, and they just kind of tacked on a story there. But even though the raid's good, but damn, it's a cycle, and I never noticed the cycle.
World finally, properly felt good, and the players started coming back. The numbers, for the first time in a very long time, began climbing instead of falling. Lapsed players returned. Word spread that maybe, just maybe, New World actually had a future. For the first time in years, the arrow was pointing up. The arrow pointed up for about 2 weeks. October 28th, 2025, with that very update still pulling New World's population upward, a senior Amazon executive named Steve Boom sent a memo to the staff of Amazon Games. Boom sat above the games division, running Amazon's audio, Twitch, and games businesses, all at once, and his memo did not mince words. "We have made the difficult decision," Boom wrote, "to halt a significant amount of our first-party AAA game development work." And then the specific clause that was New World's death warrant, specifically around massively multiplayer online games. New World was in the line of fire. The studio, Boom explained, would instead shift its focus toward more casual and AI-focused games, optimized for Luna. Luna being
Oh no, I didn't know they were going to AI games. No, we're going to get fucking slop from them. Damn it! I didn't know that. Oh my god. Just sell New World to Rust. I forgot his name. Oh, that's disappointing.
cloud gaming service, the one almost nobody has ever knowingly used. And the flagship title Luna had just launched. The kind of game Amazon was now pivoting toward was something called Courtroom Chaos starring Snoop Dogg. Yes,
What?
You heard that right.
What
Amazon
the fuck?
was shutting
What?
down budget game development, and specifically online worlds like New World, in order to make casual and AI-generated games for a streaming service that almost nobody uses. The cuts were folded.
Wait a minute, is Snoop Dogg's new, like, he has, like, his music thing, but is this why Snoop Dogg is making his own games, just to give the finger to Amazon games? That would honestly be pretty funny, but that also does sound like Snoop Dogg just dunking on stupid people. Yeah, they're a big, we love AI, even though it's 100 years too early for AI to even close to being as good as they think today. Yeah, and I don't remember who I was talking to. I think it was uh the Jerpa. I think it was one of the artists I usually work with. That we were talking about all this stuff, and they were saying like a lot of the artists out there, even the ones that I've worked with for like past art stuff and everything, somebody told them and they told me this: AI is terrible now, but it's in the worst state it will ever be in every day, because every day it's supposed to get better. And I just continuously see slop, and I'm just like thinking, shit, yeah, I hate to say it, but that's true, because like they're progressively making worse stuff. They're learning what's worse about it, but it still is slop. That's the thing. It it's and like when I heard that, my brain like broke for a second. I was like thinking, I never thought of it as that. The reason why we're getting so much shit and so much dumb shit is because it's constantly in the worst state it will ever be in. And that like clicked in my head so fast. I was like, what the fuck? And it's insane. Like, yeah, we're seeing like the people thinking, oh, it's the newest best thing right now, but it's really not. It's just fucking mind-boggling. Most likely he started with his son. I just know he announced it at Summer Games Fest with the game that he put Tupac in. But I have not really looked further past beyond that. I will say music creators have made like the most wildest games out there, like 50 Cent with Bulletproof and Get Rich or Die Trying games. I am 99% sure I can't stream those games, but those games were like wacky and fun. It was like crazy. So that's why I'm like all for with Snoop Dogg doing this. And Snoop Dogg is a gamer. He's proven he's a gamer a lot. But it's kind of like a thing, like we need like wacky games that's actually wacky and actually good. Yeah, that's how AI works. Yeah, like that never, like, that thought process of it never clicked in my head until then. And I was like, son of a bitch. Like, I know, and probably, like, well, not probably, most likely in my lifetime, I'll never see good AI that we think we're at. Like, probably the only AI I can give an example of that's great is the AI constructs from Halo, like Cortana, Sierra, Roland, the fuck is that one AI's name from Halo Wars 2? I want to say Isabel, but I could be wrong. We're never going to get to that point with this lifetime. That's why we gotta deal with this stupid shit. But like, I get so fucking tired of people saying like, "Oh, it's better than anything human made." I'm like, I fucking disagree. It's not better than any human made shit.
Folded into around 14,000 corporate layoffs at Amazon that same week. And the cruelest detail of all, just before all of this, Boom himself had said in an interview that New World on consoles had done really, really well. He praised it, and then he killed it. The end came quickly after that. On January 15th, 2026, Amazon delisted New World from sale. No new content would ever come after Nighthaven. The in-game store would close that summer, and the servers, the actual worlds where all of it lived, would be switched off permanently on January 31st, 2020.
Okay, so technically it's an extra
month.
For
the official goodbye from the studio, it was gracious and grateful, and contained not one single word of apology. We want to thank the players for your dedication and passion. Together we built something special. The shutdown, they wrote, would give this fantastic adventure a send-off worthy of a legendary hero. And then came the offer. Within a day of the shutdown announcement, the chief operating officer of a studio called Facepunch, a man named Alistair McFarlane, posted publicly and tagged Amazon. Facepunch is the studio behind Rust, which is to say it makes the exact kind of brutal, full loot survival game that New World had started life as, and then thrown away back in 2019. The genre New World walked away from had just shown up at the front door. $25 million, McFarlane wrote. Final offer. Games should never die. And his idea was simple. Let Facepunch buy New World, or at the very least let the players keep it alive themselves. Make the servers something the community could host on its own. A game, he wrote, will live forever in the hands of a dedicated community. It was half a joke, but it was also half real. McFarlane confirmed that he had actually spoken to people at Amazon, and that he was, in his own words, open to all avenues. And this is where the engine comes back. Remember it. Built to sell Cloud declared a company killer by its own developers, and given away by Amazon 3 months before the game even launched. New World was not built on anything a buyer could simply pick up and run with. It ran on Amazon's own proprietary, in-house technology.
You should go down the AI rabbit hole, see how long we've actually been working on it.
Almost
I'll
everyone
give you a
on
start.
Earth
Yeah,
actually knew how to work
1900.
on it had worked at Amazon.
1900?
A huge number of them off. So even if the company had wanted to hand New World to someone who would keep it breathing, the game was, in a very real sense, welded to
I didn't think it was that long.
The original sin from the very start of this story. The engine that was never really about the game turned out to be the exact thing that made the game impossible.
Okay, I know AI technically has been around. Oh, shit. I'm not going to remember the year. I want to say like early 2000s. And I'm going to speculate that point because I remember, I think it was Will Smith that did like a video with like an AI robot, that the AI robot like went down its own rabbit hole and was saying how much it wants to see humans in zoos. And then it was like a few years ago, unless it was longer, that Facebook created an AI and they had to shut it down. I don't think it was ever turned back on. And the reason why they had to shut it down because it invented its own language and no one understood what it said. And I don't think to this day they still understand what it says. And I think there was like another AI deal. I think. I could be wrong about that. I do know there's a movie about like an AI robot killing people. I think it was like called Meg or something. I didn't watch that just because I honestly thought it looked a little dumb. Like, it looked like an off-brand of Chucky, to be honest. And that was the reason why I didn't watch that movie. Is because, like, I was like, when I saw the trailers, I thought, this is, like, kind of lame, and I don't see how can this be, like, a serial killer. And I get, like, a lot of Chucky vibes off of it, and why would I watch that if, like, we already have Chucky? 1980 XCOM was the first system to hit the market with AI. Really? Damn, I need to, like, look more into this. The number one thing I've been seeing with AI as of late is I know we watched a video a few weeks back about like the burnt peanut clones or something, and a lot of them are recreating like his overlays and stuff using AI, and there's like people out there giving tutorial videos on that, and they're being called out for it. Like it's a whole wild thing. I actually thinking about this now. I'll bring this up after the video. About like someone who I can't say copy. Uh, did something similar to like a commission idea I had. For reaction stuff that they full on used AI with their model for like the thumbnail of it, and I was just like, all right, cancel it. Just cancel it. Keep the full payment. Just cancel it. I don't want to be look at this with the AI stuff.
To rescue at the end, so Amazon turned all of it down. A game with a devoted base was not going anywhere. Amazon would not sell it to Facepunch, would not let the players keep it alive, would not budge an inch. The game would simply be switched off. And the players understood precisely what they were watching. What they felt, more than anything, was a kind of cruel disbelief. People had thought Nighthaven was the turnaround. Instead, it turned out to be a farewell that nobody had recognised as one at the time. The announcement alone cut the game's remaining population by more than half in 4 days. Players logged in to give away everything they had built over the years, telling each other that it was all
Jabberwocky first AI chatbot 1988.
Real. People say
damn, things are a lot older than I thought it was. I honestly thought Gronk was like the first chatbot AI.
Harvesting and building a new world, and now even that was being taken away. They held in-game farewells. They begged Amazon to release the server files. And their fight folded into a wider movement of players who were sick of watching games they had paid for get deleted out from under them. The anger pointed, as it always had, not at the developers who built the world, but at the company that owned it. The company that, in the end, killed one of the biggest hits in Steam history to make room for AI games on a service that no one had asked for. Now, there is a version of this story where Amazon did nothing wrong, and it deserves a fair hearing. New World in 2025 was a fraction of what it had been at launch. A massively multiplayer online game is brutally expensive to keep running, and Amazon is a business, not a charity. Businesses cut things that are
not wrong on that.
And on a spreadsheet, an online game running at a fraction of its old size is an easy thing to cut. All of that is true, but when Amazon pulled the trigger, New World was not on its way out. It had just posted the best update of its life. Its population was climbing, and a buyer was waving real money just to keep it alive, asking for nothing except the chance to. And Amazon would not even let someone else run the servers for free. That is not a company cutting its losses. That is a company reaching into a world it built, and deleting it on purpose, while people were still living inside it. Here lies the cruel irony hidden within the lore of New World that reflects reality. New World is set on an island called Eternum. The name is Latin. It means eternal. It is a cursed magical place where you genuinely cannot die. When you fall, the island simply pulls you back and stands you up again. It refuses to let you go. And the substance that powers every...
I will say, they're like, Amazon has like that show that's called like, I think it's like called Secret Level or something. And there is like a few good episodes in there, like the Space Marine one that continues on Titus's story before he became the rank he is now. Inside Secret Level, there is an episode that's all about New World. It's actually really good, and I do recommend it. Like, I will say it's better than the Concord episode, but I would say it's definitely up there. A little over 100 years we've been working on AI. It's going to probably be another 100 plus years before it gets to where they're hoping it's supposed to be at today. I know Razer's hoping it'll be as of today at the point with Halo where we can have like hologram people, because didn't they sell like a tube thing where they have like a waifu on it. Like, let's be real, that's the thing we're waiting on. Just like to find like their virtual waifus or husbandos that they can get within it. I know Razer promoted it, but I know nothing about that, honestly. Other than the whole point of that tube thing is like to help moderate your health while you're gaming. It like uses like an AI tool thing where you're supposed to speak to it like, oh, what are you eating? How long you've been gaming? How all this shit on it, and I know nothing about it. But it is supposed to have like an AI program into it that it's supposed to design to be your spouse, but it's marketed as like a partner, not a partner. Health management.
Everything on that island, the magic that fuels your fast travel and your crafting and the whole living world, is a glowing material called Azoth. And the detail that is
Holograms different from AI.
Is the
yeah, but they're trying to like combine the two.
Game engine, the real piece of software the entire game was built on, that heavily modified descendant of Amazon's cloud selling technology, had a name too. Amazon called it Azoth, the magic that powered the world inside the game, and the engine that powered the game itself shared the exact same name. And the engine, the real Azoth, was both the thing that made New World possible and the proprietary trap that made it impossible to save. And Eternum, the world named for eternity, the one place built so that you could never truly die, is being switched off for good to make room for a game show starring Snoop Dogg. That is the real story of New World.
I don't even know if Snoop Dogg even knows that the game's happening.
Not really a game that succeeded either. It is the story of a game that was never quite allowed to be a game at all.
Honestly, a big W if Snoop Dogg does this. I don't know the level of power that Snoop Dogg has, but it would be like a huge W to like everybody who plays New World and wants it to be good if he takes down that AI game of him for stealing his likeness. Because like I highly doubt Snoop Dogg, who has his own gaming company right now, like he has both his own music company and now his new gaming company that started up like 2 months ago. If he just says his 100% of his likeness goes towards his company that he has for gaming only. If he does that, he could honestly probably stop Amazon from doing that. Maybe. I don't know the full legality on that, but there's a possibility on that. The only thing I can think of is stealing his likeness.
It broke records and it broke itself, and the company that built it never really cared which. Because to Amazon, New World was only ever a way to sell the cloud. And once Amazon was finished selling the cloud this way, a world named for eternity was handed an expiration date, January 31st, 2027. Amazon built a place where players were never allowed to die, and then it decided to do the one thing the game itself never permitted: to switch the entire world off, and leave it off for good. New World is not the first game world to be switched off suddenly. One of them lasted 45 days. That's the story of the graveyard in the middle of your screen. Subscribe if you'd like to see more gaming documentaries. Big thanks to
Oh my god, of course he has Highguard. He does have a Bungie video up here. But we'll watch the Bungie video another day. This is honestly great. Yeah, go give him a like, honestly. But man, like New World shutting down the way it is honestly like really sad, to be honest. I have talked about so I know Gar's currently playing the game. I think he's on it right now. I think I could be wrong. But all of us have talked about potentially going back like for one last hoorah for New World, but we all kind of like backed down off of it because of the fact that what would potentially be the point of getting on to like do nothing, because like our characters are maxed out, we have everything done. And yeah, as of like 2 weeks ago, they unlocked your ability to get achievements, but only in-game achievements. So when January 31st happens, it's not going to matter.